Welcome to Perfectville, your first place podcast for your Miami Dolphins, part of the BLEAV network, powered by Fanduel. I am Sam Marcouxn, and the two-time Hall of Famer. Of course, I'm talking about the good doctor himself, Dr. Christopher Cullen, will be joining us later this week to give you all of his thoughts, all of his opinions, all of his ideas about what the Miami Dolphins should do and will do against the Indianapolis Colts week 1. But all this week, we're getting you kickoff ready here in the town of Perfectville with all kinds of fun guests, all fun kinds of great content. And today is no different, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Perfectville. Joining me in just a little bit of time is one of your favorites, maybe the most beloved figure outside of Dan Marino and Don Shula that the Miami Dolphins have ever had. Of course, I'm talking about number 78, Richmond Webb, the 6-time Pro Bowler, the 4-time All-Pro, a member of the All-Decades team in the 90s, protecting the blind side of number 13, Dan Marino, the would-be and should-be Hall of Famer. We're going to talk all about that, plus his thoughts on the Indianapolis Colts as a whole. You got to remember, back when he played, this was an AFC East rivalry right here. The Colts were a part of the AFC East up until that realignment right after Richmond Webb retired. He's going to be joining us, making his triumphant return back to the town of Perfectville in just a few moments. But until then, we have some other news that we do need to talk about. I think the big news, the big splash is really twofold. Number one, the long-awaited anticipation for the rivalry jerseys for the Miami Dolphins has come and gone with not a ton. Let's put it this way. The Miami Dolphins are always going to have controversy. There is no middle of the road with the Miami Dolphins on any and all topics. And these uniforms that they're going to wear against the Jets are no different. Is it blue? Is it black? Is it gray? Should it have been gray? Should it have been Miami Vice? There's always something for the Miami Dolphins fans to fight about. The citizens of Perfectville are unruly at all times, and this uniform is no different. I have to tell you, I like it. I like the uniform color. I like the helmet. I think it's a great combination in addition to the Miami Dolphins wardrobe, so to speak. I would actually love to get some sort of fashion designer on and talk about why this is good or maybe why it's bad. Maybe you guys have a different opinion than I do. But personally, I think it's fun to see something that's outside of the traditional color scheme for the Miami Dolphins. I think they got the colors right. I didn't love the reveal video, especially when you look at the rest of the reveal videos. I think the Buffalo Bills not only nailed it with their rivalry uniform, but they actually had a really good video reveal. The Jets, very similar in nature, and even the New England Patriots, I thought the way that they put everything together looked really cool. And then the Miami Dolphins are just kind of like, yeah, here's 15 seconds of Jalen Waddle and AI wearing this uniform. Have fun, enjoy. So the reveal left a little bit to be desired, in my opinion, but I do like the jerseys. I do think the Miami Dolphins wearing these against the Jets on a Monday night are going to look pretty fantastic, especially under the lights. I think it makes a lot of sense to showcase those, highlight those for everybody to see on Monday Night Football, and hopefully it leads to a victory, similar to how when the Miami Dolphins used to wear those orange jerseys, and for a long time they were undefeated in those orange jerseys. I'd like to see a similar streak happen with these rivalry jerseys. For me personally, yeah, I'm probably going to cop one or two of these things. I don't know how much they're going to cost. I may have to sell a child or a kidney or a car or maybe my house in order to afford this. But I like it. So give me your thoughts. Let me know. Give me a shout on X at Perfectville Pod. Check us out on YouTube. Like and subscribe on there. We're putting all of these episodes up on YouTube now, so you can feel free to take a look at my ugly mug, as well as any and all guests, including Dr. Christopher Cullen. But I think the other big news, and probably bigger news in terms of what you're going to see on the field, are the fact that the Miami Dolphins, with just a few days away from week 1 against those Colts in Indianapolis, which, again, if you were to check out Fanduel, we'll be going all through this game with Chris later this week, but breaking down everything. The Miami Dolphins are still the underdogs, plus 1.5 right now, although a lot of money is coming in on those Miami Dolphins as the health news comes out and it breaks the Miami Dolphins' way. Tyreek Hill's going to play. Devon Achan's going to play. Looks like Austin Jackson is on track. So that offense for the Miami Dolphins looks like they're going to be primed and ready to go against this Indianapolis Colts defense on the road. So that plus 1.5, that might change. In fact, some sports books have it differently, but if you go on FanDuel right now, you have an opportunity to lock that in. Plus 1.5 for the Miami Dolphins. I say you take that line, especially right now, but we're going to break it all down. The props, the individual over-unders, the over-under for the game as well is 46.5 right now. Pretty enticing. Pretty hard to stay away from that line if you're a guy like me who likes to take a look at this and for funsies, figure out if you can understand and predict the scores here. But I think the big news that I was talking about is the fact that the team captains have been announced here for the Miami Dolphins. We have 6 in total. No real surprises here. If you've been paying attention, you've been watching this, listening to this, or just any Miami Dolphins content, you know that the names that I'm about to mention have really been those leaders that you've seen during preseason, during training camp, leading up through the offseason. So Tua Tagovailoa, no surprise there. The quarterback, QB1, he becomes captain yet again. Aaron Brewer, the center, his battery mate, giving Tua the ball on every single possession. He becomes a team captain again. Alec Ingold, the fullback, know him, love him, recovering from concussions, back on the field. He is a team captain. Those are your 3 offensive captains right there. Keep that in mind. On defense, you've got Jordan Brooks, who has been very vocal, has been very active, who has become an absolute leader, not just of the defense, but of the entire team in general. You've got Zach Sealer, the highly paid, well-dressed cowboy on that defensive line for the Miami Dolphins. And, of course, Bradley Chubb, who, look, carries a big stick. This guy has been injured, but he has been active. He has been on the Miami Dolphins coaching, helping, mentoring the younger group on that line, Chop Robinson, of course, Jalen Phillips, and others on that line. So those are your 6 captains: Tua Tagovailoa, Aaron Brewer, Alec Ingold, Jordan Brooks, Zach Sealer, Bradley Chubb. Congratulations to those 6 men. Those are the guys, again, no surprise, that we've been seeing over the last few years, and in particular this offseason, this preseason, during training camp. Step up, be loud, making sure everyone's paying attention to them, huddling them up before preseason games, hyping them up, talking to the media, making sure that they have everything to get right and be right. No surprises whatsoever. I think the biggest controversy, if you want to call it that, is what everyone's trying to make of the fact that Tyreek Hill, for the first time since becoming a Miami Dolphin, is not a team captain. I don't think that's a surprise either, considering how the season ended last year, considering that there still seems to be a little bit of animosity between Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa. I know Tyreek Hill is working hard. By all accounts, the reports are that he's showing up on time, that he's doing the right things, saying the right things, and maneuvering the way he's supposed to be maneuvering. But that doesn't mean you become a team captain. So he's not a team captain this year. I don't think it really matters. I don't think Tyreek Hill really cares. Maybe a small ego blow just because everyone's going to talk to him about it. But I don't think that's the top thing on Tyreek Hill's mind this season. So I think he understands why he's not. I think it's a good thing that he's not. I think the Miami Dolphins have chosen the right 6 people to lead this team in terms of players and team captains. So I applaud them. I think they got it right on the uniforms. I think they got it right on the team captains. I think they got it right on their response to their linebacking coach who was arrested over the weekend. Leave it to Miami. Is this a new tradition? Is it a new tradition for Miami Dolphins players and coaches to get arrested on the eve of game 1 of the regular season? Their linebacking coach, who I'm not even going to show you or tell you his name right now, he's on administrative leave. They're going to let the process play out. We have yet another guy who's going to take his place in the meantime to take over that linebacking core, a very talented linebacking core as well. So disappointing to see that from one of the coaches who's supposed to be a guy that they look up to and follow. Let's hope they don't. Let's hope they understand that in a bubble, in a vacuum, this is an isolated incident, and that the process will play itself out, and whatever happens to him happens to him. But I do appreciate the response that the Miami Dolphins had. It was swift. They took issue with it. They put him on administrative leave, and they're going to go ahead and move forward with what they've got. So I appreciate the no nonsense. I appreciate not letting this hang out there. Mike McDaniel, Chris Greer, everybody involved did the right thing there. So congrats to all of them. And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's the optimism. Maybe it's that week 1, kind of that Christmas Eve feel for football fans everywhere. But I'm feeling pretty good about the Miami Dolphins right now. I like their team captains. I like the alternate jerseys. I like what I'm seeing on offense in terms of the health coming back. I love what I saw on defense. I think they answered a lot of questions during preseason and training camp. Of course, rubber meets the road week 1 against those Colts in Indianapolis. So we'll find out for sure. But I'm liking what I'm seeing, citizens in Perfectville. What about you? What do you see? I'm thinking this is good. I was pretty down on this team going into the season, but they pulled me back in just when they thought I was out. And right now, taking a look at this, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I'm starting to smell. Yeah, I'm starting to smell. There's an aroma in the air of maybe, I don't know, 10 wins, possibly 11 wins for the Miami Dolphins. I think the schedule is easy early. I think this Colts game is very winnable, especially on the road. We'll break it down later in the week with Christopher Cullen and look at all the stats. We'll deep dive into everything Colts, everything Miami Dolphins, and I'll tell you why I'm feeling so optimistic about week 1 against those dastardly Colts. But for now, I think what we're going to do is we're going to hit pause. We're going to stretch. We're going to limber up because I got the big man coming in. I got Richmond Webb, number 78 all decades team of the 90s, 6-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, number 9 overall pick in 1990 for the Miami Dolphins, Ring of Honor, should be in the Hall of Fame, will be in the Hall of Fame. Richmond Webb coming up right after this. And we're back, and I told you, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Perfectville, I was alone for the first segment, but I wasn't lonely. And now I'm not even alone. I've got a returning champion, I think his third time, maybe fourth, being on this show. Oh, I don't know. He's done a few things in football. Let's see. He was the 9th overall pick for the Miami Dolphins in 1990. He's a 7-time Pro Bowler. He's a 4-time All-Pro. He's in the Ring of Honor for the Miami Dolphins. He's on the All-Decade team for the 1990s. And that guy that you guys like so much, that number 13 guy, Dan Marino, yeah, the reason why we all know who he is as an international weapon for the Miami Dolphins, international superstars, because this guy, number 78, big Richmond Webb, protected his blind side and his backside for 11 seasons for the Miami Dolphins. Richmond Webb, welcome back to the town of Perfectville, my friend.
Sam, how you doing? Good. Always great to be on your show. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. You and I were just talking a little bit off air about the differences between Florida and California when it comes to the atmosphere, when it comes to the weather. And as you talked about, you brought up a great point, something I've taken it for granted, but you'd mentioned coming out to California, 85, 90 degrees. Not surprising there, but what was surprising for you, like you said years ago, was it's a dry heat. So you could actually enjoy a convertible. You could roll the windows down. You could enjoy the fresh air around you as opposed to the sweltering sun and humidity of South Florida, which I just experienced at training camp a couple of weeks ago. So we were polar opposites. We're crossing and kind of cross-pollinating and understanding everybody's atmosphere around these days.
Oh, yeah. And that is, and, the good thing about, LA, where I visited, California, is you got the mountains and it cools down at night. Florida, the sun goes down, maybe still be 80 at night, and so you're still sweating. So both beautiful places, but just being in a dry versus a humid climate makes a huge difference. But yeah, we were kind of laughing about that and your daughters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I feel their pain. So yeah, I'm with the girls.
Well, speaking of pain and speaking of places that aren't beautiful, the Miami Dolphins go to Indianapolis this Sunday against the Colts, a team that I still hate. Now, I love talking to folks from your generation of ball because I talked to OJ McDuffie last week. We had him on the show, and he understands the hatred for the Colts. I think you understand the animosity when it comes to Indianapolis Colts. For the uninitiated, for the younger folks in the town of Perfectville, you might not know or you might not understand that the Colts, for a very, 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 very long time, were one of the chief rivals of the Miami Dolphins. They were in the AFC East with us up until realignment around the turn of the 2000s, whenever that happened. And because of that, it's subsided on some level, but not with me. No, I'm like an elephant. I've got a long memory. I distrust these guys. I despise these guys. Nothing would make me happier than to start the season 1-0, beating up on our former AFC East rival. Do you still look at them as a rival? I know you were a player that's a little bit different, but do you still look at them and go, those are our rivals, or is that subsided with you?
I do and I don't, and because when you think about them, the first thing that hits my mind is they used to be an AFC East team because it was just three AFC divisions and 3 NFC divisions, and now it's 4 and 4. And yeah, they were definitely there, and they were definitely. I was thinking about that when you were talking, and actually, when I first got there, I think John Harbaugh, the coach of the LA Chargers, was the quarterback, and then eventually, I'm a little older than Peyton Manning, but he came in. So, playing against guys of that caliber, this and that, and both of them very successful. Peyton is more on the business side, but John Harbaugh's been a really good coach. 49ers, then went to Michigan, and back in LA again. So he's a proven product. So those are the memories. But thank goodness we'll deal with John a few weeks later down the season when we play the Chargers. But Indianapolis, very tough place to play, and we always had the mindset that it's a dome stadium, so the noise doesn't escape. So starting out game 1, everybody's fresh. I just love to be able to get up there and establish a consistent drive early in the game. And I'm not talking about throwing a 70-yard touchdown. I'm talking about 8 to 12 play drive, consistently move the chains, take time off the clock, and that kind of takes the crowd out the game, and then the defense picks up where we left off. Because if you can take them out, it makes a huge difference. But if you struggle early, it could be a long 4 quarters.
That's great insight, and that's why you're on the show here, getting us kickoff ready for the Miami Dolphins against the Indianapolis Colts here on the BLEAV Network. You just mentioned it. It's a loud place to play. It's week 1. Everybody's optimistic. It's Christmas Eve for football fans everywhere. They're going to come. They're going to bring the noise. They're going to be loud. The Colts do have weapons on offense. When you look at that team, they've got a great running back. They've got a great wide receiver. They got a young rookie tight end in Tyler Warren that they're going to want to try to get out into space and showcase for their fans as well. But you just mentioned it. As an offensive player, as a left tackle, you would love to be out on that field and have a sustained drive that just kills the clock and brings everybody down into their seats where they have to wait. Would you prefer to be on offense to start the game, or would you rather the defense go out there and try to put a 3 and out on those Colts and then take over? What would be your preference if you were playing?
A lot of times we like to start, if you win a coin toss. It just depends on who wins the coin toss. But you got to be ready. And sometimes, even if we go out second, if the defense goes out and can create a 3 and out drive and, or something like that, that's good for us. Long as when we hit the field, our first drive, we want to be ready to go.
There you go. So speaking about ready to go, what can this offensive line do specifically? This is your area of expertise. You are the subject matter expert. I look at the starting line for the Miami Dolphins, and if Austin Jackson comes back and it's trending like he's going to play week 1, you have your full complement of offensive weapons in terms of your starters, not only at the skill positions, but where it truly matters in the trenches there. What can this team do? These 5 gentlemen up front, what can they do outside of practice and technique? What could they do to be even more prepared for week 1 against those Indianapolis Colts? Is there something they can do in the locker room or outside of the field, or what is it that you would give them advice to do to say, if you do this, it's just going to turn the heat up a little bit more?
Yeah, the only thing basically you can do, because you're going to put the time in practice, watching the film, the main thing, you got to know your assignments. And then, when we would go play on the road, a lot of times while you're in the huddle, once Dan would call the play, me and Keith would get together and we would go through, whatever options, depending on what the front was. And you got to know what it is, because a lot of time, if the noise level gets loud enough, it's like I'm looking at you and my mouth is moving, but you can't hear anything. And you definitely don't want the defensive guys to try to figure out what you're saying. So we would try to, hey, if this happens, boom, boom, and we would make our calls. And sometimes we might just walk up, kind of see what it is, and just say yeah or no. We just minimal we communicating, but we're on the same page. But yeah, you just got to know what you're doing, because the last thing you want to know is if I go left and he goes right and the guy comes in there and blows, that's a momentum swinger right there, and you don't want that at the start of the game.
We actually saw that in preseason game against the Bears, preseason game number 1, where it looked like the blocking assignments were confused between the tight end and the offensive line. And what happened was a guy actually came in and blew it up on 4th and goal, and the Miami Dolphins didn't score. Now, of course, they were playing situational football there. I think you probably have a different play call on 4th and goal when the Bullets are live here week 1. But I loved what you just talked about there, Richmond. So you talked about Keith Sims, your running mate for so many years on the left-hand side of the Miami Dolphins line. It was just it was either like a one-word verbal communication of either this, if we see this, then it's yes. If we see this, it's no. Or it's some sort of just eye contact between the two of you. How did that work when how do you communicate with whoever's on the right side of the line for you guys as well? Is it all just the same all the way down, or how does that work?
Yeah, you got to communicate. Like me and Keith, the guard and tackle, we did a lot of communication. A lot of times, Jeff Ulenik or Tim Ruddy, the center, once they make their call, we know what we got to do. So I would communicate with him. If it was a tight end on the side, Farrell Edmonds, Keith Jackson, Hunter Goodwin, I'm going to communicate with them, because I'm always of the deal. If we're going to mess it up, we're going to mess it up doing the same thing. You know, I don't want to be doing this and you doing that. And so, I would always tell guys, and not so much Keith, but when I play with younger guys or whatever, we got to communicate. If we wrong, I'll take the heat for it. I just need to be on the same page with you. As long as I convey that, and they would trust that if something went wrong, I would go over there and take the heat for them, because you don't want to be the younger guy and say, okay, is it Richmond or you? And I'll be like, no, that's my fault. I messed it up. Coach might not actually believe that, but that takes a lot of heat off him, because I need him to help me when we're out there on the field. So that's just always our approach to the game. And I knew how important communication is, because it's not as hard when you're at home, but when you're on the road, there's times where you can't hear. And when when they turn the heat up and the fire, and you need to get that first down or continue to make that drive going, it's crucial.
Protecting Dan Marino, protecting his teammates. What you just talked about is being a leader, being a captain. I don't think there was a captain, official captaincy back in the 90s when you were playing. Was there, or did you guys have that internally, or how did that work?
I think at times, like, Dan was always a captain, but a lot of times Dan would be the captain, and they would send out some. So a lot of times it would be like Dan and maybe I'm gonna say John Offerdahl when I first started, and they would be the captain. So John would go out, Dan would go out sometime, but Dan sometime might still be over there warming up. So somebody like me, like you said, OJ McDuffie, we would kind of rotate, but Coach Shula would let us know who the captains were, or go out there, and then he would tell you, hey, if we win the toss, we want the ball, this and that. If not, we're going to kick from this field, and you'd have all the instructions. And then I think when Jimmy Johnson got there, he would kind of rotate guys every week, depending on if you had a good week of practice, okay, you're a captain, and that's how you do it. So I've been captains under both scenarios, but that's how it worked.
So you talked about taking the heat, even if it wasn't your fault. You might fall on that sword. I mean, Aaron Brewer is a team captain now in terms of the Miami Dolphins officially right now. He's the center, obviously, for the Miami Dolphins. Is that part of his role as well? As if the big man, the big rookie next to him, Jonah, messes up, is Aaron the one going back to the huddle and telling Tua or telling Mike McDaniel, hey, don't worry about it, it's on me, I made the bad call, we'll fix it? Or how does that, or is that just something you were doing because you had Dan Marino and Don Shula to deal with?
Yeah, I had it. I guess for me, like, I guess it's kind of different for Aaron because he's going to make the line call once he sees the front. And once he's like the quarterback for the offensive line, because a lot of times if you hear a quarterback call a play, we don't listen to a lot. We don't need to know the formation, if it's, trips left or all that. Y'all figure that out. Give us the numbers and what we got. And then we like, okay, we know the protection where it slide. We got 4 down line in the mic. It varies whether it's, a nickel situation or base defense. And so that's what we would pay attention to. And so the only thing Aaron has to do is make the call. And I think for the rookie, he probably could cover up or something. The main thing when you got a new guy out there and not saying you want them to feel as comfortable as possible, because I think everybody has the butterflies before the game. You make a couple of hits and you kind of settle down. But that was my thing, was just making sure the guy I was playing, if he was comfortable out there, because I can take the heat. It's like you said, you got to be a stand-up guy. And sometimes it might actually be my fault, but all I cared about, if we doing the same thing together, I can live with the consequences.
Yeah, I was funny because I was talking to Juice last week, and I'd mentioned what quarterback do you wish you could have played with? I mean, obviously you played with the GOAT and Dan Marino, but what quarterback do you think you would have succeeded with? And he's like, I'm not taking that bait. It's Dan Marino all day, every day. You might be listening to this. So you could tell there's a healthy amount of respect and maybe fear. I can only imagine. And you and I have talked about this in the Perfectville before. Dan Marino, something went wrong. He's chewing somebody out, if not everybody out in that huddle. You got to be a man. You got to be tough. You got to get back into it and shake it off. If, let's just say, the rookie Jonah Sabayena, the left guard there, makes a mistake, Tua gets sacked, what's the best advice you could give him to how does he mentally shake that off and check back in for the next play?
You got to focus on the next play, because if you keep focusing on how you messed up the last play, sometimes one play can turn into 3 till you just spiral where you can't get back. And I'll tell you, nobody wants to give up a sack, but you got to be able to shake it off and say, okay, let me settle back down. You got to refocus back in, because if you keep worrying about the play, it's over with. You don't want it to happen. You might got to watch it in the film room, which you don't want to watch that as well, but it's part of the game. And then, you just got to make an exception. Hey, sometimes those guys are going to make a play.
Yeah,
I'm going to make mistakes. If I get a chance to pin that guy on his back or whatever, I'm going to do it as well. So that makes me, it's highs and lows. You just got to be able to kind of balance them out. But if you just sit there and focus on, man, I gave up a sack, and you're going to spiral out, and it's going to get real bad. And that's the thing I always try to, it's in the past, but you got to refocus and settle back down and stay calm. I think as an offensive lineman, you can't really ride the highs and lows, like defensive guy makes a sack, everybody's high-fiving them, blah, blah, blah. You make a good block, you still got to kind of stay even keel because, the next play you could give up a sack. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you got to stay even keel because you get too hyped or whatever. To me, I think you kind of lose focus of what you really should be paying attention to.
We're talking to Dolphins legend Richmond Webb, taking us through what it's like to play on the road against the Colts in that dome stadium and what he'd like to see the offense do with their first possession, talking about line calls, talking about that communication and that chemistry that you have to have with your line mates out there, and maybe what you have to do as a veteran in case somebody messes up and it's not you, and you got to shield them a little bit from maybe an Henri, let's just say Henri Dan Marino, and maybe double Henri Don Shula on the sidelines there. So a couple more questions for you, Richmond. Would you rather, you talked about making a nice play than being even keeled. What was like a bigger high for you on the football field? Was it like road grading somebody, pancaking them in the run game, or was it maybe even just standing Bruce Smith up and just stopping him in his tracks on a bull rush when you're protecting Dan Marino on a passing play? What was the type of block that you loved the most as a pro?
It probably would depend on the player I'm going against, and if you're really good pass rusher or he played a run, or sometimes they play both. That was Bruce Smith. But if you kind of came out the game 50-50, even with Bruce, and you had that's a good feeling. But for me, just listen to probably a really good run block because we threw the ball so much, we didn't run the ball a lot of times as much as we wanted to. So anytime we could come off the ball and really smash a guy and drive him and really open up a good hole. That felt good for us because we only had, limited opportunities. We understood why, because we had, Dan Marino. So anytime we could do that, that was always a good feeling when we could, because now you're going to possibly get some more running plays. So yeah, we always look forward to that.
So I got a couple other questions for you. Looking at the Miami Dolphins, just looking at their, we're going to learn more later in this week about the overall health as the injury reports come out, but all signs are pointing to, especially on offense, having just about their full complement of weapons with the exception of Jalen Wright. Looking at the offensive line, the question mark seems to be Austin Jackson. Everyone else seems to be in relatively good health going into week one, but injuries are always a concern. They always will be when you're having a collision sport like the NFL. But looking at this, I mean, it's amazing to me. You played 118 consecutive games for the Miami Dolphins. That's 7.5 years of football without taking, a game off. That is in an era where you were probably more physical. You probably had more dirty play in the lines in terms of eye gouging and everything else. And you had a completely way more physical training camp and preseason schedule as well. How is it that from your generation, and maybe this is anecdotal, but it feels like the injuries are way more now, even though we have much better athletes, with all due respect to everybody who played the game up until now, but we seem to have more injuries and more severe injuries in today's game than we did in the 80s, 90s, 70s, and so on and so forth. What do you attribute your health to? And what do you think of, I mean, am I wrong in thinking that there's more injuries these days? Are people just more concerned? Do we know more, so we hold people out? What is it about the injuries in today's game, given the super athletes that we have, as opposed to when you played?
Yeah. To me, I just tell people, man, I was just blessed and fortunate. I just think God just watched over me. I never really focused on the record, and I didn't know about the record until like a game before. And I can remember Harvey Green mentioning something to me. I just thought about, we play this week and just try to be ready to play the next week. But I never said, okay, I need to keep this streak going. I never focused on that. But, I agree. I think it's a combination of both, but I think what the league is trying to do is provide more player safety. So, some of the hitting stuff they don't do as much now, but I think as far as the way they train and intense, I think the off season they put a lot more training. So it's wear and tear on your body both ways, and I think that's part of the reason. But I think sometimes you do need to have plays where you can have the padded practices where you can kind of get your time and pad level and stuff down. But yeah, I just think they just train a lot more. And a lot of guys some guys don't even train at the facility. They have these places they go to train and this and that. And it looks, from watching on Instagram or YouTube or Twitter, wherever they posted it, the way they work, I mean, it is intense, and it's for, you know, at least 2 or 3 hours, and that's a pretty strenuous workout when you continually doing that week after week after week, and your body's gonna have to get rest, and you only got so many reps in you before, you know, some pop, snap, or whatever. So I think that's part of it as well.
Gotcha. I got 3 more questions for you. One, we're gonna go in the Wayback Machine. We're gonna talk a little bit of college ball because it is college football season as well, and I know that you are a diehard Aggies, obviously, and you guys got a big game coming against Notre Dame here in 2 weeks. But not to overlook Utah State, with all due respect to Utah State, but I'm pretty sure going into week 3 of the college season, the Aggies are going to be 2-0. Staring at Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, who I wouldn't say were embarrassed against the Miami Hurricanes, but they lost when they probably feel like they shouldn't have lost. So are you looking forward to that game? Are you going to be at that game? How are you going to consume your Aggies against the Fighting Irish here in 2 weeks?
Well, Sam, I think the way you do approach it is you look at Utah State this week and don't start focusing on that big game. We played them last year, and they came to Texas A&M and you know, ended up in national championship at Notre Dame. I had an opportunity to meet their coach a couple of years ago at the Lombardi Award. They have it here in Houston. So I met him. Tremendous respect for that man and what he's done at Notre Dame. But he's going to have them ready to play. I mean, I thought they were ready to play against the Miami Hurricanes. I watched that game. Miami got out on them, but then they came back.
Yeah.
And then, you know, field goal was the decision maker at the end. And so it's not going to be an easy place to play, and looking forward, like I say, Tim Ruddy, Sean Wooden, and even back from old Dallas days, Tim Brown. We played against each other in high school.
Timmy Brown.
I know a lot of great guys that went to Notre Dame, have tremendous respect for just the tradition of the school and all that, but it's going to be tough. But I'm hoping we continue to use these first 2 games as tune-ups to be ready to play, because I think that can really catapult us into maybe the top 10 if you can beat a team like that, because they're one of the best teams. They lost, but they're still one of the best teams in the country.
They might even be more dangerous now. I mean, they feel like they got something to prove. Like maybe they let that opportunity slip.
They're not going to let too many slip.
Yeah. All right, 2 more questions for you. One, I am going to get your prediction because I talked to OJ McDuffie last week here in the town of Perfectville, and I asked him, what do you think is going to happen week 1? And he looked right into the camera and he did his best Clubber Lang from Rocky 3 the invitation, and he said pain. So I'm going to get your prediction there, but before that, I would be remiss if I let you go and I didn't talk about the fact that there is a groundswell, and rightfully so, amongst the Dolphin community to get you into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, where you are rightfully supposed to be. I'm actually kind of embarrassed that you're not there yet. You are one of the most engaging, one of the most giving with your time to the Dolphins community, whether it's through whatever social media. I know you're doing a lot of podcast appearances. You respond to people. You're here on this show. You have no reason to be on this show. I remember the first time you came on here, I was like I didn't do a backflip because I'm not that physically agile, but in my mind, I was doing backflips because I had Richmond Webb, one of my heroes growing up watching the Miami Dolphins, on this show. You've always been giving back so much. And now it feels like the fans are doing their very best, just like they did with Zach Thomas, to get you into Canton, where you rightfully deserve. I feel you will make it in. I think it's going to happen. I'm pretty confident that this is going to happen, and I will create a pester and bug campaign just like I did with Zach Thomas until the Pro Football Hall of Fame says, you know what, whatever we got to do to get this man in so that Sam leaves us alone again, we'll do it. But what does it mean to you to see that level of support and love from the Miami Dolphins across the country, across the planet, who are recognizing you for what you did, what you accomplished, and are pushing very, very hard?
They are. To
try to get you into Canton. What does that mean to you?
It means the world, Sam. I retired, and then I think what really happened was COVID, and I started doing 2 things. I started gardening, and then I had time, so I was at home and didn't have nowhere to go. So then got a little bit more involved on social media, and then just like you say, just interacting with people, because I've always been kind of a close knit. Once I retired, at church, I joined the usher team because that kind of reminded me of being in the locker room. That was the closest thing I could simulate. So now, just meeting some of the fans and just interacting with them, it's just some really cool people. And then, they, after Zach got in, and really before that, they started initially. So we got Zach in, and we're going to really work to push to get you in. And I just got out the way, and I really had to interact with, some of the people that run the Dolphin fan club organizations, and I've been down for fan club weekend and just met a tremendous amount of just really good people. And I've actually met just some people like on Sundays, I try to watch the games and we tweet back and forth with the fans and stuff like that. And I've even got a couple of Jet fans and people chiming from down there. So I just tell them, hey, we can talk long. I will not disrespect your team. Just, long as we can talk and be cordial, I'm cool. But
What are Jet fans going to say to Richmond? Really?
Yeah. It's one. Every night he'll throw something at me, but he is respectful. So we just take little slight jabs and this and that. But at first I had to I was somebody chimed. I think that I don't know if the Jets beat us but I can't remember who it was. But anyway, the guy was like going at me, and I was like, bro, what's up? And he was like, well, you said that. I said, bro, go back and check my Twitter. You can go back as far as you want to. If I said something bad about it, just put, and he couldn't. And then he said, man, I'm sorry. You're right. It was other Dolphin fans. I said, okay, as long as me and you good, we good. And I just love interacting with fans. I'm partial to Dolphin fans, but long as you're respectful, we can talk football, because I know everybody loves their team. Everybody wants their team to go to the Super Bowl. That's part of it. So yeah, I just like people, and it gives me it gives me some more friends to hang out with and just talk football. So that's the way I look at it.
Well, I can't imagine the weeds in your garden standing a chance. I mean, I imagine the hands are still quick, and you're hitting that back step, just boom, 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 pulling them. So that garden's got to be beautiful.
I can't comment because I'm gonna start back in the winter, but they beat me up, and then I had a couple of critters eating my stuff. I said, man, I got to let y'all have it now, but I'll be back. But I had 3 or 4 good runs this year. They got me, but I said I'm gonna back off a little bit, and I'm gonna get started back up.
You can't take the competitor out of Richmond Webb, ladies and gentlemen. He'll fight Bruce Smith. He'll fight Mark Gastineau. He'll fight a Jets fan. He'll fight a critter stealing his tomatoes. The guy is the ultimate competitor. So last question for you, Richmond, then I'll let you go here. But and one request. Number one, the request is if you could figure out a way to fix that hobby airport of yours down there in Houston, because I get stuck there, and the air conditioning never works for me, going back to the whole heat and humidity thing. I'm a stinky, smelly mess as I'm going across the country here, and I get stuck there all the time, and I'm like, I don't like it. So if you could somehow pull some strings and fix that for me, I'd appreciate it. Number one. Number two, we talked about it. Juice said it's going to be pain for the Indianapolis Colts week 1 against your Miami Dolphins. How are you seeing this one? If you want to throw a number prediction out there, a score prediction, or if you just want to talk about the overall tone and tenor of the game, what do you think happens?
I think week 1 is very important for everybody, and nobody wants to start off in the loss column, and you definitely want to start off in the loss column when you got the first game at home. But I think this is a game, if we're focused, we can go up there and win that football game. I think the thing is, it seemed like when I watched the third preseason game, a little bit I saw the offense seemed like the timing was just not. If we get our timing down and right, I think that'll be good. It'll definitely be a plus if we have Austin Jackson. Like I said, I want to see that man get healthy, because not last year, but the year before, he had to me a Pro Bowl type year. I mean, he played extremely well. I was surprised he didn't make the Pro Bowl, but you got him, Patrick Paul on the other end. And then I think we got a really good, solid starting offensive line. So that's definitely key, and it's definitely key for protecting Tua and stuff like that. So I'm definitely hoping that he'll be ready to go. And then, like I say, we come out and you want to set a tone, because everybody's kind of looking and say, okay, this is not the same, they got a little physicality to them, this and that. And I think that's how you always want to start the season.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And, the Miami Dolphins could do worse than having a left tackle from the state of Texas who is protecting your quarterback's, the investment that you have in your quarterback there. Patrick Paul, I got a chance to meet him at training camp, and my daughter, who's 12, who's tall for her age, but she stood next to Patrick Paul, and it was like she was a newborn again. I mean, that is a huge, huge human being, and he's ripped.
But I think he's got me by maybe at least an inch or two. I think he's maybe 6'8", something like that. He's tall, lean, and long, but he's aggressive, and he got a little mean streak. So I like what I saw from him.
Yeah, I was trying to stay out of the Florida sun, just following him wherever his shadow was. Like once he hit high noon, I was screwed. But that is a huge guy, and if he stays healthy, and there's no reason to think he won't, I think we're in good hands with him as well as everybody else on the offensive line, and we're always in good hands with Richmond Webb. Richmond, thank you very much. Anything you want to put out there? You want to tell everybody your socials if they don't know where you're at right now? Push it out there.
Yeah, my socials, Twitter is just Richmond Webb, and Instagram is at the real Richmond Webb. Actually, I couldn't believe somebody had my name, so I had to add the real on there. So the real Richmond Webb, and then Facebook is Richmond Webb. So mostly on Twitter, but I do check Facebook and Instagram, and I do most of my interaction, I think, on Twitter. So definitely looking forward to this Sunday's not a home opener, but start of the season. And then getting out of church and getting home and tweeting with the fans. So
there you go.
I'm ready for it.
We're ready for it too. Mike McDaniel has never lost week 1 since he's become the head coach for the Miami Dolphins. The Indianapolis Colts have not won week 1 since 2013. I feel like that streak's going to continue on, but we'll dive deeper into that game later this week as we get you kickoff ready. Richmond, thank you very much for joining us here in the town of Perfectville. We'll see you next time, and good luck with the critters. What is stealing your stuff? Are we looking at what are we looking at? Raccoons? Are we looking at squirrels? Are we looking at?
I think it's either armadillo or a skunk or something. I think it's something. I just hadn't been able to catch them, but I got holes all in my backyard, and it's just, I say, hey, man, I'm not going to stay up all night trying to see if I spot you. I just say, okay, you can have it for right now. So hopefully I can.
Do you name them after your former opponents? So you're like Daryl Talley, God damn it, anything like that? Just start running after.
That's a good idea. I might have to start doing that. So yeah,
there you go. Yeah, you got to knock down Bruce Smith and Daryl Talley one last time. And in this case, whether it's an armadillo or anything else. But all right, we'll let you go. Thank you, Richmond. I appreciate you being here. And stay tuned. We got more here on the town of Perfectville right after these words. And we're back. Special thanks again to Richmond Webb, the legend, the should be and will be Hall of Famer here, joining us again in the town of Perfectville, giving you the inside scoop as to what you should expect from the Miami Dolphins, from the offensive line, what he'd like to see happen with this offense on the opening drive. Like he talked about, you don't want to go into a hostile environment week 1 in a dome where it's loud and you can't hear anything and hit them with a 70-yard score. Yes, we'll take it. But beating them down, bringing the fans out, taking that juice away from them with a 12-play, 80-yard, ends with a rumble into the end zone type of touchdown drive would be amazing. Really good insight from the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Richmond Webb. And good luck to Richmond on fighting Daryl Talley, Bruce Smith, and all the other critters, stealing stuff out of his garden. The balls on these creatures to go into this man's garden and take some of his stuff. I would not want to be there. I would not want to be the armadillo that's taking fruit and vegetables from Richmond Webb's garden, because at some point he's got one more game in him, and he's gonna pancake these guys once he catches them. So good luck to Richmond on the garden. Good luck to Richmond on all of his appearances. You can check him out on all the socials there, like he talked about there at the end of his segment. And we're reaching the end of our segment, or the end of this show here in the town of Perfectville, getting you kickoff ready. Again, part of the BLEAV Network, sponsored by Fanduel. And again, we're going to get into it. We've got all kinds of guests coming up here this week, getting you kickoff ready. Not only do we have Richmond Webb, not only do we have OJ McDuffie and Seth Levitt from the Fish Tank, we're going to have Travis Wingfield from the Drive Time Podcast. We're going to have Dudley Durong, fresh off his visit to training camp, and his guest appearance on the Teron Armstead podcast as well, coming up in the world, Mr. Dudley. We've got views from the other side. We're going to have some podcasters, some journalists from the Indianapolis Colts side of things. The beat writers are going to join us here later this week and give us their view from their side of this matchup against the Miami Dolphins on Sunday, week 1. And then, of course, the good doctor himself, the two-time Hall of Famer, Christopher Cullen, will be joining us back in the captain seat, the co-captain seat, to talk about all things Miami Dolphins, give you his predictions and everything going in to week 1 for the Miami Dolphins as we get ready. Kickoff ready. Ladies and gentlemen, the Miami Dolphins play real football in less than a week. I'm excited. You're excited. Everyone's excited. The Miami Dolphins have team captains. They've got new uniforms that they're going to be debuting against those disgusting, dastardly Jets later this season. It's just time. It's just time, ladies and gentlemen. And Fanduel has got you covered. Check it out. I was on Fanduel this morning taking a look at the line. Like I said, the Miami Dolphins are currently plus 1.5 underdogs on the road against the Colts. I think that line's going to move. So get in today. Lock that in. Make yourself some money. or if just for funsies, why not? We're going to be talking over under, looking at everything the Miami Dolphins. You can look at this game in so many different ways. As a pure fan, of course, fantasy football, you can get all your advice at fantasylife.com and watch it from an individual performance. You could watch this with the over under in terms of the overall point total. You can actually take a look at who's going to score the first touchdown of the season for the Miami Dolphins and the Indianapolis Colts. We're going to break this all down and much more with Chris Cullen later this week. But until then, and in between then, check it out on fanduel.com. Get yourself ready, and you can play along at home as we get ready for the Miami Dolphins and Indianapolis Colts kickoff ready. And until then, just as a reminder, on behalf of myself and the two-time Hall of Famer, everybody here at BLEAV, powered by Fanduel, nobody's perfect except us. So the only thing left to say is goodbye from Perfectville. Later.